The Seoul skyline glittered, a testament to the empire Lee Min-jun had built. At 48, he was the revered founder and CEO of Surihan Biotech, a company that had revolutionized skincare using traditional Hanbang herbs. Tonight, in his Gangnam penthouse, they celebrated a monumental acquisition deal. The air buzzed with success. Surrounded by his family, he felt invincible. His wife of 30 years, Choi Suk-young, elegant and poised. His son, Lee Ji-hoon, a newly minted Stanford MBA and junior director, brimming with arrogant ambition. His daughter, Lee Eun-ji, an art student, the family's pure-hearted free spirit. And his younger brother, Lee Min-suk, the cautious CFO, the loyal right hand who managed the money so Min-jun could chase dreams. This was prosperity. Not just the wealth, but the unshakable fortress of love and trust. 3 weeks later, the illusion shattered. Summoned to an emergency board meeting, Min-jun was met not with smiles, but with icy stares. Suk-young, in a chillingly formal tone, accused him of massive embezzlement, presenting forged documents and a fabricated digital trail. Min-suk, eyes downcast, confirmed the evidence from his discreet investigation. Ji-hoon, avoiding his father's gaze, mutely agreed. He was accused of mental instability, of reckless decisions. He was suspended, stripped of his titles, and forcibly escorted from the building that was his life's work. Returning home, he found the locks changed. His belongings were on the curb. His daughter, Eun-ji, stood supervising, her face contorted with hatred. "The woman Appa?" she spat. "The one in Apgujeong? Mom showed me everything. You're a cheat and a liar. I never want to see you again." The final blow. They had not only stolen his company but poisoned his legacy and turned his own child against him with a lie about a mistress. The prosperous Lee Min-jun was gone. Homeless, penniless, and utterly alone, he collapsed into a squalid Gashawon room, his world reduced to 4 damp walls and the crushing weight of betrayal. Episode 2, Ashes and Embers. Months passed in a blur of despair and soju. Min-jun was a ghost, haunting the city he once ruled. One rainy night, huddled under an awning, he saw their faces on a massive digital billboard advertising Surihan's new Eternal Harmony Serum. Min-suk, the new chairman. Suk-young, the vice chairwoman. Ji-hoon, the executive director. They looked pristine, powerful, and prosperous, standing on the ruins of his life. The sight didn't break him further, it forged him. Grief crystallized into a cold, furious resolve. They had taken everything, but they hadn't taken the knowledge in his mind or the fire in his heart. His first move was to find Park Dae-ho, his brilliant former head of R&D who had been mysteriously laid off just before the coup. He found the disillusioned man at his family's rustic hammock in the Jeonju countryside. Over a simple meal, Min-jun revealed the truth. Dae-ho listened, his face grim. "Min-suk cancelled our deep research," he confessed. "He wanted cheap synthetics, not purity. It broke my heart." "Then let's mend it," Min-jun declared, a steel in his voice that hadn't been there for months. "They have the company, but they forgot its soul. We will build something new. Something true." They called their venture, Waejin. Flower Battle. A silent declaration of war. With the last of his hidden cash, they rented a small, dusty workshop. They foraged for herbs, used ancient extraction methods, and worked until their bodies ached and their hands were stained with earth and truth. The corporate titan was gone, replaced by a humble craftsman, his ambition refined into a single, burning purpose: redemption. Episode 3, The First Skirmish. Waejin's first product was a simple hand cream, but it was impeccable. Using a forgotten, potent blend of magnolia and orchid extracts, it was a testament to purity over profit. They couldn't afford marketing. Their strategy was guerrilla tactics. Min-jun, disguised in a cap and humble clothes, visited the upscale Apgujeong salon where Eun-ji and her friends frequented. He gifted a basket of Waejin samples to the head stylist, a former client of Surihan who had lamented the brand's declining quality. The product's efficacy was its ambassador. Within weeks, a quiet buzz began among Seoul's elite beauty circles. Have you tried that tiny brand, Waejin? It's miraculous. The buzz reached the ears of a popular YouTube beauty influencer, who did an unsponsored review, raving about its authenticity. At Surihan, Min-suk dismissed it as a niche fad. But Ji-hoon, tasked with competitive analysis, grew uneasy. The branding, the philosophy, it felt hauntingly familiar. He ran a background check on the registered owner, a shell company. His suspicion grew. Meanwhile, Min-jun took a greater risk. He learned Eun-ji volunteered at a community arts center for underprivileged children on weekends. He began showing up, posing as a retired herbalist offering free workshops on natural dyes and paints made from plants. He kept his distance, his face hidden by a hat and years of hardship, but he watched her, his heart aching. He saw her kindness, her light, and the sadness that now flickered behind her eyes when she thought no one was looking. Episode 4: Cracks in the Foundation. The success of Waejin Serum, their second product, forced Min-suk to act. Surihan's quarterly earnings were down. The board was asking questions. His cautious nature curdled into paranoia. He sent Ji-hoon to investigate Waejin's supply chain, hoping to find a flaw to exploit. Ji-hoon, eager to prove himself, tracked Waejin's herb source to a small, ethical cooperative in Jeolla province. He arrived intending to threaten them into an exclusive contract with Surihan, cutting Waejin off. But the elderly head of the cooperative disarmed him. "Ah, you are like the other gentleman from Waejin," she said warmly. "So respectful. He pays a fair price, never haggles. He says a good product starts with honoring the source." She spoke of Lee-ssi with deep respect, describing a humble, hard-working man with calloused hands and keen eyes, a description that clashed violently with Ji-hoon's image of his embezzling, mentally unstable father. A seed of doubt, planted months ago by his father's desperate pleas, began to sprout. Why would a thief be so ethical? Why would a madman be so shrewd? Back in Seoul, Suk-young, fearing Ji-hoon's wavering resolve, tightened her grip. She staged another, chance, discovery, showing him more fabricated credit card statements for jewelry and the Apgujeong apartment. "Your father is a brilliant liar, Ji-hoon. He fooled me for 30 years. Don't let his ghost fool you now." But the seed had taken root. Episode 5: The Unraveling. The annual Seoul Beauty Expo was the industry's biggest event. For Min-suk, it was a stage to reassert Surihan's dominance. For Min-jun, it was a battlefield. Waejin could barely afford a small, modest booth, dwarfed by Surihan's colossal, high-tech display. Min-jun and Dae-ho worked their booth themselves. The confrontation was inevitable. Suk-young, Min-suk, and Ji-hoon, surrounded by executives, made a grand tour of the hall. They stopped at Waejin's booth, a move designed to intimidate. The air grew cold. Min-suk's face paled as he recognized the man behind the counter. It was him. Thinner, older, dressed in simple clothes, but undeniably Lee Min-jun. His eyes, however, were new. They held not desperation, but a terrifying, calm certainty. "So," Min-suk said, his voice tight. "This is your little project. Selling trinkets." "Purity isn't a trinket, Dongsing," Min-jun replied, the familial term laced with venom. "It's a principle. One you seem to have auctioned off." Suk-young stepped forward, her mask of elegance flawless. "Still peddling lies with your products?" "The only lie here is the one you're living, Suk-young," he said, his voice low but carrying. "How long can you build an empire on forged documents and a stolen family?" Ji-hoon stood frozen, watching the exchange. He saw the raw hatred in his mother's eyes, the panic in his uncle's, and the unwavering truth in his father's. The cognitive dissonance was shattering. Eun-ji, who had come to the expo with friends, drawn by the buzz around Waejin, witnessed the entire scene from the crowd. She heard her father's words. She saw the pain on his face, a pain that looked nothing like guilt and everything like loss. The hatred she'd clung to for months suddenly felt brittle and false. Episode 6: The Proof. The public confrontation broke something open. That night, A tormented Ji-hoon bypassed his mother's security and went to the company's servers, accessing the archived financial records from the period of the alleged embezzlement. His father had always been careless with digital security. It was why the forgery was plausible. But Min-suk was meticulous. Ji-hoon looked for the ghost in the machine, the metadata. He found it. The digital transfer orders, all time-stamped and signed with his father's ID, had been created and logged during work hours when his father was in documented public meetings, a keynote speech in Busan, a factory opening in Gwangju. It was impossible. Furthermore, the IP addresses for the transactions were internal, but traced back to a terminal in Min-suk's private office annex, not his father's. He confronted his uncle in his office, throwing the evidence on his desk. Min-suk, cornered and desperate, didn't deny it. Instead, he justified it. He was going to run the company into the ground with that acquisition. He was too reckless. I saved us. I saved your inheritance. But the mistress? The apartment? Ji-hoon asked, horrified. Your mother's idea, Min-suk whispered, defeated. To make sure Eun-ji and the public would never believe him. To make the break clean. Ji-hoon recoiled. He had helped destroy his father for a lie, for money. Simultaneously, Eun-ji, her world rocked, went to the Apgujeong apartment building her mother had shown her. Posing as a potential tenant, she sweet-talked the building manager into showing her the layout. Casually, she asked about the previous tenant in the specific apartment. Mr. Lee? The manager frowned. That unit? It was rented by a corporation for visiting executives. A Surihan Holdings. A nice lady from their HR department handled the lease. Never saw a Mr. Lee or a mistress living there. It was mostly empty. The final piece of the lie crumbled. Her mother had manufactured the entire story. Episode 7, Reckoning. Ji-hoon found Eun-ji at the art center, both seeking solace in the same place their father had secretly watched them. Their shared realization was a devastating, bonding agony. They went to their mother. Armed with Ji-hoon's digital evidence and Eun-ji's testimony, they laid it bare. Soo-kyung's elegant facade finally cracked, revealing a core of breathtaking avarice and bitterness. It was always about him. His dreams. His glory, she screamed. I stood by him for 30 years, and what was I? The faithful wife in the background. The company was my life too. And he would have given it all away for another vision. Min-suk loved me. He saw me. We deserved it. Her confession was recorded on Ji-hoon's phone. The motive wasn't just greed, it was a twisted mix of resentment, a secret affair with Min-suk, and a thirst for power she felt denied. The siblings knew what they had to do. They arranged a meeting with the entire board of directors. With their father present, clean and proud in a simple suit, they played the recording. Ji-hoon presented the digital forensics. Eun-ji, through tears, testified to the lies about the mistress. The board was stunned into silence. The evidence was irrefutable. Episode 8, Legacy. Lee Min-jun was fully exonerated. His shares were unfrozen. The board begged him to return as CEO. He looked at his children, their faces filled with shame, regret, and a desperate hope for forgiveness. He looked at his brother and his wife, now facing criminal charges for fraud, embezzlement, and defamation, their lives in ruins. He declined. The company you want me to lead is the one they built, he said to the board. A entity of betrayal and poison. I'm not interested. Instead, he negotiated a peaceful merger. Surihan Biotech would acquire Wagen, not as a takeover, but as a partnership. Wagen would become Surihan's prestigious, authenticity-driven flagship line, its philosophy reintegrating into the parent company. Park Dae-ho was reinstated as head of all R&D. Min-jun took a role as chairman of the board, a position of oversight and vision, not day-to-day management. He appointed Ji-hoon as the new CEO, not as a gift, but as a challenge. You helped break it, he told his son. Now you will help rebuild it. With ethics. With truth. And I will be here, watching to ensure you do. Ji-hoon accepted, his arrogance replaced by a humbled determination. The final scene was not in a boardroom, but in the bright, sunlit art studio of Lee Eun-ji. Min-jun stood before a stunning new painting. It depicted a majestic, ancient tree that had been brutally cut down. But from its vast, gnarled stump a single, resilient new shoot was growing, reaching toward the sun, more vibrant and alive than the old tree ever was. It was titled, Weijin, Flower Battle. Father and daughter looked at each other, no words needed. The road to healing would be long, filled with therapy and difficult conversations. The scars of the betrayal would never fully fade. The prosperous man had not regained his old life. He had built a new, wiser, more resilient one from the ashes. His family was not what it was, but it was mending, its foundation no longer sand, but the hard-earned bedrock of truth. True prosperity, he had learned, was not in a bank vault or a corporate title. It was in the integrity of your creation and the courage to fight for the truth, even when you stand alone.